Before we continue, we'd like to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, Newcastle Business District. The Newcastle Business District continues to promote, develop, and enhance our downtown business area through community projects, promotions, and economic development. It was first created in 1983 under the name Newcastle Business Association and was renamed Downtown Miramichi Business Network. This was following Newcastle's incorporation into the new city of Miramichi in 1999. In 2006, it was renamed again to Newcastle Business District. Despite the many changes in its name over the years, the organization's goal has always remained the same, which is to further enhance the active growth of the downtown business community. Newcastle Business District. Shop Downtown Newcastle.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Corcoran Entertainment Show. I'm your host, Franky Corcoran, and we are coming at you today with a very special episode of the Corcoran Entertainment Show podcast today. Thank you guys for joining us today. What we're going to be doing is a special Insiders podcast on our most recent theatrical production, A Night of One Acts. For those of you guys who know me and know what we've done with Corcoran Entertainment will know that we have done A Night of One Acts before. It was a different set of plays. It was our very, very first show. It was two plays that I wrote. But this one here was two plays that were not written by me, and I only directed one of them. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today with the cast and crew of the shows. I'll kind of give you a quick rundown on what they are. So, of course, there is A Tale of Two Spectators, written by Peter Manos, and stars Thomas Hare and Naomi Wallace, who will be on the podcast here today as well. And basically follows a man and a woman in the park. They are watching their respective spouses having an affair on them, and kind of just watching and observing. And they also kind of learned a little bit more about each other in the process, and it's heartwarming, it's heartbreaking, it's a little bit of everything. And that was directed by the multi-talented Annaka Fournier. I was so glad that she agreed to. She actually, Annaka, by the way, who's been on this podcast, and she's done pretty well almost like every production that I've done. She actually directed a play before as well too. Actually, she is multi-talented in that field of directing, of course, because she won the OK Silk Award at her drama festival in 2018, which is almost like the equivalent of winning an Oscar in Drama Fest awards. Yeah, she might as well just say, I won an Oscar or a Tony, whatever it is. For of course, directing The Velveteen Rabbit, which was emotional, heartbreaking, heartwarming, funny, all at the same time. And so I know she was dying to get back on the train and to direct a play, and so I had offered her and told her basically, yeah, we're doing A Night of One Acts, and I'd love to have you direct one of them. And it's funny that the A Tale of Two Spectators I actually did with the CM Productions back in June 2021. Had 2021. I said too many 20s. With me and Taylor Blackmore, of course. Shout out to you, Taylor, and Chris, if you're listening to this. And so that was a lot of fun getting to see a new take on it as well, too. And just me watching it, be like, yeah, I remember when we did that. I sent her the script. She was kind of skimming through, seeing what she could find. And Tale of Two Spectators really stood out to her. It was a great piece for Thomas and Naomi, who are both also multi-talented as well. So it was great. So they're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm not going to speak for any of them. So also later in the show, we have, of course, I had the immense honor of directing Patti O'Shea and Michelle Lilly in Driver's Test, which basically follows 16-year-old Gail, played by Michelle Lilly. And she, of course, is going for her driver's test with a crazy-ass, batshit insane driving instructor named Patti. That's the actress's name. Named Margie. And so takes her on a wild ride, one that she'll never forget, almost tries to get her outside of her comfort zone, like, come on, live a little bit, life is short kind of thing. And basically leads to, fender benders, and police chases and truck. It was a lot of fun. It was super super fun. I had a lot of fun directing that one, and and I can speak for Annaka on this as well too. Excuse me. I can speak for Annaka on this as too. Directing these two shows are easy when you work with the best. When we picked these shows, it was like it was meant to be. Who we chose and how it all came to be, and we were very lucky with this one. We were so lucky. It was a one night one we did as well too, which I think also added on to the big success that it was, and we're so grateful to everybody for making that and for coming on out and supporting us, because we would have been nothing if nobody came out to see us. So we're just going to talk a little bit about it today, guys. So first off, we're going to have a Tale of Two Spectators followed by Driver's Test. So stay tuned, enjoy the show today, and let's just dive right into it. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Corcoran Entertainment Show today. Almost forgot what the podcast was called. Welcome back to the Corcoran Entertainment Show special episode today, the Insiders podcast on A Night of One Acts 2024. The first segment here will be for our first one act play that was on January 12th, which was A Tale of Two Spectators. First off, we are joined by our director, our amazing director. She's giving me the look right here, like she has like the cue cards up. She's like, say this and say this.
Franky.
Annaka Fournier.
Hi.
And
thanks for having me back.
Yes. Oh, yes. This isn't your first time on this podcast too. You had quite a few appearances on here now, actually.
2 or 3. Yeah, I feel really honored.
You're honored.
Like super special
halfway
for being on your podcast.
Halfway to being a co-host. And so next up we have our two actors. So first off we have Man, who is played by Thomas Hare.
Hello.
And then we have Woman, played by Naomi Wallace.
Hi.
Did you guys name the characters? Like, did you guys ever like think like, what's my character's actual name?
No.
I didn't. I probably should have.
I do like though. I mean, what was so as I at the top of the show, I kind of gave a rundown of what the play was. So I really do like, first off, Thomas, one thing that I wanted to bring up. I liked how much work that you guys were putting into, like, you're like, yeah, I think, like my take on it is that he's an older kind of dude, you know what I mean? Like it was like you were taking what was on the paper and you were just expanding on it. So Annie, what was your thought process like through that, where like, obviously it's one thing where it's written on paper, but then now you were taking it and making your own what do you say? What's the word I'm looking for? Your own perspective on it. Interpretation. That's what I'm looking for. Thank you. I'm like scrounging for my fucking thesaurus. So what was the process like on that, Annie?
When I first read through the script, I found it to be, almost generic, very, very generalized. It's there's still a story there. There's still personality. There's still people in those words to come out. But I found with how we did it, I found it needed to be pumped full of energy, more personality, more to make it more human. There was a lot of different aspects to the script that I found to be, I won't say dry, but I will say much more minuscule than what I wanted it to be. I think it was a very quick, short story, but it had so much potential to be more. And I wanted it to be fun. It had some serious topics to talk about. Definitely. There was the serious aspects, the somber moments, but there was fun in there. There was laughing and camaraderie and companionship in a dark time. And I wanted the script to show that very much through what it could be, what it would be.
Yes, definitely. Because and one thing too, Annie, I loved because you had said, because I was backstage with you during the whole thing, and
Yes.
yeah yeah, I just give her the stuff. I'm like, all right, see, I'm going to the bar.
You did run off a couple times.
Yeah, just to check on a few things. But I remember your big concern going into it was you're like, I'm so scared they're not going to laugh because I mean, yes, it has funny moments, but it's I think maybe it's too serious and stuff like that. Tell us a little bit about your reaction when you started hearing them
Franky.
laugh. It was so nice to see your reactions from it. I'm like, it was just well, because especially talking to you before, and you're like, I don't think they're gonna laugh at this. I don't think they're gonna laugh at this. And then when they were laughing at it, I could just see it backstage. The people listening can't see this, but she was like freaking out. Like, feel free to explain the feeling that.
There was no explanation.
What was your feeling? Like, just describe it. Like, just
It was, well, right now it's embarrassing, but it was very heartfelt. Like you said, I wasn't quite sure. Actually, the audience surprised me with how much laughter they had at different points. I didn't think that they were going to laugh at, and they did. And it surprised me, and it like warmed my heart. And that's the professional take on it. Rather, what was actually happening was, while Naomi and Thomas were acting, I was sitting in the chair and pressing the audio and watching the cues, and every time they laughed, Franky's right beside me behind the post, and I'm like grabbing onto his shirt, like, Franky's are doing it. Like a little kid. I was just like a kid in a candy shop when they started laughing at the spots, and it just made my heart so light and happy, and I was beaming, and it was so amazing to have that feeling again, to see how something that you and your team worked on so hard, it's so well received. It feels so nice.
It really does, though, and that's why I was so happy just to see your reaction to it. Just because I know you were so concerned about, because I mean, obviously, yes, there's funny moments, but it is somewhat depressing because, of course, what these characters are going through. Thomas, of course, when the first time that you saw the script was, of course, when we did it with Matheson. How many years ago? Like 4 years ago now? Feels like forever ago.
No, it wasn't 4. I think it was 21.
21, whatever. It feels like forever ago. The last 5 years have the last 5 years have just been a blur to me. It just feels like forever. But I'm kind of curious. Like, I mean, so of course, having seen the play then back in 2021, and now here we are in 2024, has your perspective on it kind of changed? Especially now that here you are. First, you watched it be played by different people, and now here you are living it. Has it kind of changed or no?
Yeah, it was interesting because when I first saw it, I didn't absorb it probably as much as I maybe could have or did. So going into this, there was like vague understanding of how it could be played, but there wasn't a lot of it that influenced me.
But no, really though. I mean, like once you see it, especially once you're living it, that's when you really start to delve deep into the character traits and stuff like that. Like you don't really pay too much attention to that when you're watching it, like someone else perform it. Like it kind of like just now once you're living it, you're like, this is my own interpretation of it. Naomi, what was your reaction? Oh geez, God, don't cry. Okay, I guess she just answered my question. She's like crying on camera. I was just gonna say.
No, I wasn't expecting you to talk to me.
Okay, all right. We're gonna talk to you then. I'll talk Thomas. No kidding. I was kind of just curious on your thoughts on the play's subject matter, where it's such a it's not like other plays where, of course, we've seen where it's like historical shows, or it's like Frozen, where it's like, this isn't something I
God, I
can.
forgot about that.
Yeah, Frozen. Yeah, she was in Frozen. Yeah.
She was.
Yes.
Mhm.
And it's not something that you can really like relate to on a personal level, because I mean, like, who can relate to a Disney princess? But I mean, like, when it comes to Naomi, you are a princess.
She was a queen.
She was a queen. Oh yes, that's right.
I'm
My
a
bad.
queen.
Um, but I mean, magical queens, like, they don't exist or anything as far as we know. So, what was it like, a play like this, of that, stuff that we see in real life, where it's so relatable? What was it like tackling that type of subject matter for a show?
Well, I mean, it was really real. Like, it was a very human show, and that's all I could think of for like the whole time we were practicing. I was like, this is such a deep show. Like, you could either take it at face value, it's just like a story being told, or you could really dive deep into kind of the meaning behind it. Um I find it's just like it was kind of different for me, I guess. Like, I've never been in a one act before, just with like two people. Um, so yeah, it was kind of hard for me. It was like it was something new. Like, I always do historical or Frozen or like musical or things like that. And I mean, I've done plays with you before, but this was like it was a departure from what we usually kind of do.
Yeah, no, like, it definitely was where I mean, like, of course, death costs dearly. I mean, that was, I mean, like, kind of real when it comes to, like, crime and stuff like that. But I mean, like, this one here is one where really uh uh more people can relate to this one than they would have with, say, death costs dearly or any other show. But one thing that Patti was always saying too, where she's like, going into it, we're like, oh, like, it's a one act play. It's not gonna be like, it's gonna be super easy because it's just two of us. It's not like, a big cast. But she said she actually found it harder. Did you find it harder as well, Naomi? And then Thomas, I'll ask you the same thing as well.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot harder. Mainly I think because you don't have the other people on stage to kind of help you out. Like, I've been in scenes with just one or two people, but you always know that you can leave the stage in like a couple minutes, you know what I mean, for the next scene. Or like it's the end of the show, but for this it's like 30 minutes straight of just you and one other person on the stage. So if you mess something up, then that other person is also going to be messed up because there's only two of you to like bounce back from that, and you can't just like, oops, gotta go, like, leave the stage. You have to be there for another maybe 30 minutes on the stage. So it was definitely a lot harder for me, but it was fun. So I had so much fun.
I'm just picturing, do you see them? Well, I'll see you next week. Just get up and leave. One act play turns into a 10-second play.
Cool.
So,
Record.
Thomas, how about you?
It's interesting. I've done plays on a similar scale,
Hmm.
and I think that really is the big differentiator. You talk about, Death Costs Dearly and a bunch of other shows. It's the scale that does it, where this is such a singular moment in time for these two characters that there's nothing really like.
Sorry, the little
You know,
bastard
where
was wanted attention.
yeah,
God damn it,
there,
Ozzy, you
there
fucked up the
can be
podcast.
no development beyond what you do in that scene. Um, there's never more like, oh, it's been 3 days, so this change has happened on stage. It's everything you want that character to go through. They have to go through the performance in that moment. You can't imply much. You just have to do it, and it's interesting with one other person because you do have a lot more responsibility to get it right. But the other side of it is the way you interpret and the way you perform to the audience all of a sudden carries way more weight because you're half of everything that's happening on stage.
Yeah, exactly. And it's very dialogue driven too. Like, it's not like
Mm-hmm.
a musical where there's these numbers to space things out and stuff like that. It's like, no, like, this is all you guys. Like you guys, basically, you guys are the musical numbers. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing else that's gonna space things out. Uh, Annie, for you as a director, what was it like? Especially, I mean, when you look at it, it's super simple. Like you're just directing two people on a park bench, and then just the character dynamics and stuff that they're going through. But was it more challenging for you? The fact that, I mean, because of course, as we said, it's very dialogue driven. It's just like there's no numbers, there's no nothing like that. It's just two people talking for 30 minutes. So how is that for you?
Confident answer is different. It was very different. Out of the one acts that I've directed before, I've never had just two people before, and in such a simple setting. You'd really have to count on the energy back and forth between each line, especially if they'd become repetitive. Not the characters or the people themselves, and rather the script. And you'd have to really focus on any direction in between. Like for this instance with the spectators, they had to pass those opera glasses back and forth every so often, make sure they were looking out of the glasses at the right moments, and passing the popcorn back and forth. And it's just the little things that, those are the little things I find that fill in the gaps instead of the musical numbers. But you have to watch for them, and you have to coordinate them clearly so that the audience can follow it through and keep up with the story, as well as the words to guide them through. They have something to watch with action as well as listen to the words and the story that are happening throughout. And I found that one to be more dedication towards finding those moments, for myself at least. Thomas and Naomi had the lines down pat. I had no worries or concerns with them towards the script. They were perfect. But finding the dynamic between the two characters and themselves together on stage with the glasses and the popcorn, working out to see which one was more comfortable and works best between them. I found that to be the thing that we worked on the most, actually.
Yes, definitely. I mean, if it was just two people just talking for 30 minutes, I mean, sure, it depends on the performance and the script and stuff like that. But it's more entertaining when, like, of course, they have the popcorn, they have the opera glasses. Thomas is shoving a whole pack of gum into his mouth. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh my God, he did that almost every practice. I started to feel bad. I feel like I need to give you like 6 packs for Christmas or something.
Did you ever fear about choking on stage, Tom? Like, were you just like, I'm gonna shove the whole pack in my mouth, I'm not gonna worry about it, you know?
No, I never really I was never really freaked out about that. It was like, and on stage, the performance, the funny thing was I was so caught up in getting all the gum out in time, I forget to start chewing until I had the last piece. When I just had 6 pieces of gum and like stuffed into my cheek. I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm gonna chew these.
My God.
But it's funny. As I asked Thomas that question, Naomi started pointing at herself because I know she was a little concerned. Weren't you, Naomi?
I was worried because I was eating the popcorn, and I was scared that I was going to choke because when I get nervous, my mouth gets really dry. A lot of people can probably like empathize with that. And so I was literally on the side of the stage for the show. I had my water bottle. I think I drank almost the entire water bottle on the side of the stage in 5 minutes because my mouth was so dry. I was so nervous, and so I was like, oh my gosh, I have to eat this popcorn. Like, I'm scared I'm gonna choke on a popcorn kernel. And so I brought my water bottle onto the stage with me, my little plastic water bottle. And then when I stood up for the first time, I kicked it over. And I almost tripped on it. I was like, shoot, I should not have brought this on stage. But then I didn't even need it because when you get on stage, the adrenaline kind of kicks in, and then I'm not nervous anymore. But it's the right before, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna choke on these popcorns.
I don't know. You still missed about 20 lines. I don't know.
I did not miss a single line.
I'm kidding.
Franky.
I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I love you.
Love you.
Speaking of love, there were you can tell that maybe there was some tension between, of course, the man and woman, and I know that there are many different ways to look at it. So I'll kind of ask each of you that question, because I know it's a mixed bag kind of thing. Annie, how did you see the relationship and dynamic between the man and woman?
Uh, I find it to be layered
Very late.
myself. Yes, it's very layered. At the beginning, I find them to be, and this might be weird, but I find them to be like brother and sister relationship. Like they're like elbowing each other or like
Oh, Mrs.
neener
Face.
neener. I know. I didn't like it either, but that's like the joking mannerisms, and maybe there's a better way to say it. Maybe I could instead say like in stories or movies where you see in high school a boy and a girl or whoever like start like to have a crush on each other, and they like torment each other and fool around and throw paper balls at each other in the classroom. I don't know, something like that. Something playful but small.
Hmm.
You know, something that they can build on, absolutely, but something like new, unknown territory. And as it builds, I I'm left questioning myself, because in my mind the layers grow and add on to each other, and there could be something there, but I'm not necessarily sure that it's romantically driven, or if it's something as a strong bond but as friends and companions because of the same trauma that they're enduring.
Yes, absolutely. Thomas, how about you? How'd you see it? I could tell by the look on his face whenever Annie said the brother sister thing. I saw
I
Thomas'
know, I'm
face.
sorry.
He's like,
Okay. The only reason I made the face was because it's wildly different from the interpretation, and the interpretation I arrived at, kind of around that behavior early on, was there is a very delicate balance that I tried to go for with the way they were interacting, and the dynamic that I pictured in my head through most of that performance was they have to simultaneously be two people who are meeting each other for the very first time at a bar, and yet somehow an old married couple at the exact same time. There's too much familiarity, but at the same time, there's still a lot of nerves and a lot of not fully understanding themselves.
yes, so it's a little bit of which is good. I like how it's so layered. Like it's not so like just one or the other. Like it's just like you have multiple different sides to it. You're like, I can see it being romantic. I can see it being just they're just friends. That I see it as they're not lovers or friends. They just this is how they're able to bond. You know what I mean? Like it's just there's so many ways to look at it. Naomi, how did you see it?
Yeah, just to go on what everyone else said, I think it's really cool the way that it was written, because you can either do no romantic connection between the two at all for the entire thing, or you could really play into it and they're maybe secretly having their own kind of little affair. I just think it's really neat the way that it was kind of like written so that it was left either up to interpretation for the director, which I think it's really cool that we can really see Annie's um directive decisions on how to kind of play out our romance. It's kind of cool.
That's Annie's so humbled. Um, but no, absolutely, absolutely, and that's I mean, and I'm sure there's lots of people who might see it one way, they might see it or another. The way I see it is, when I first did it, I remember I was thinking it was almost like you almost want to try and make the audience think one thing, like subvert expectations. That's basically the best way. Like, make it think like, okay, like by the end they're going to do it, and then maybe set up the signs, and then by the end it's just nope, see you next week, and then they go their different ways. And I really like how it's how it's written too that way, and directed as well too, where it leaves it open to interpretation. It's also interesting too. This play was written and staged via live stream back in 2020, which is super interesting during the pandemic. Yeah, I
Yeah,
had no
you
idea.
mentioned.
Isn't that cool? Eh? Yeah,
It
like
is. I like that people found ways to keep. I mean, yes, you during the pandemic, absolutely, it was incredible to see all of the different ways people kept their inspirations and their dreams and um even just hobbies alive during this, and how they incorporated it towards theater. That's really, really cool.
it is, because we were all just dying for stuff to do, and then Peter Manos was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna do a play." You know what I mean? Like, I might not be able to do it in public, but I can do it this way. It works out the very best. And then here we are now. Like, it's now people are doing it everywhere. I'm seeing lots of people are doing it. I saw someone made a short film on YouTube on that script too. Feel free to type that in, A Tale of Two Spectators on YouTube. I think it's still on YouTube. It should be. So kind of wrapping up the segment here, I was just gonna go through each of you and just kind of ask, like your overall thoughts on this particular script and the experience and working with each other, and just your overall thoughts on A Tale of Two Spectators as a whole. So Naomi, we'll start with you on this.
You know, I just love the script so much. Like I said before, it's such a human story, and like you really can't get anything better than that. And I just think it's really neat the way that um both Andy and Franky, when they picked their plays, they picked plays that were about relationships. And that's what our Reg has been on the podcast before. We love him. He came to the show, and he was talking to my parents and I after the show. He said it's super neat. Like, you can talk about relationships and human interaction in two completely different ways, but they're both kind of about the same thing. So like Patty's was, everyone's been there. Everyone with the driver's license has been the character, the young, like nervous person taking the driver's test. And then also, like, especially with our audience, I feel like we had an older audience for our play. A lot of them have probably experienced negative relationships, like romantically, and maybe bonding over that with someone else. So I think it was really cool the way that we did that.
No, absolutely. Thomas, how about you?
The experience is interesting. Such a small cast is always fun because there's a lot of back and forth with everyone, and you bond with people. The script itself, it's an interesting script. I'd highly recommend watching it if you can find it. Because it's so, like you said earlier, it's so open-ended. But at the same time, a lot of the conclusions you reach, you can back up. You can point to lines in the play that would support an interpretation one way or the other. And sometimes it's down to the actor and how they deliver that line.
No, absolutely. Like, that's one way. Like, it's very, yeah. Oh, do you have more to say, or no? That just.
No, I think that's it.
Oh, okay. There's always those pauses, and then I'm like, he's done. Okay, and then I'll start talking, and then he'll talk again. Oh shit, sorry. But Annie, how about you? I mean, obviously, this was not your first rodeo at directing. It was your first one directing like a solo show for Corcoran Entertainment. Of course, you were our musical director for Tick Tick Boom. But how would you describe the overall experience being back in the director's chair?
Again, confident, different. Having done something under Corcoran Entertainment, there was a new level of expectation for myself, as well as the show itself. I wanted it to be the very best thing that we could make, and I think we succeeded in that. I wanted to present it with as much pride as you present your own written shows. And I wanted to to say it completely just bare bones. I did not want to disappoint you, and I didn't want it to seem any less excellent quality than what Corcoran Entertainment delivers. And very, very confidently, I believe that Naomi and Thomas delivered the show perfectly, and I think it was a wonderful thing to watch, and it was incredible to direct, and it was really nice to do something with a small cast. It was fun to have the bonding moments that we had during practice. When we had our little breaks, we'd sit and we'd laugh and we'd talk and we'd just connect,
Eat popcorn.
and eat popcorn.
Sometimes our
And
breaks were way too long.
sometimes our
so-
breaks were way too long, but we did consistently get 2 run-throughs each practice.
Mhm.
By the way,
Yeah.
quick question. Sorry to cut you off. How many bags of popcorn did you go through in
Oh
total
my
for this whole
Jesus.
rehearsal run?
Probably like 10, honestly.
I'm pretty
Like,
sure it
because-
was 10.
Because I would just be eating the popcorn. Like, we would do the play and then we'd have our way too long break, and I would just have the popcorn and I would just eat it during our break.
I finished a bag one day too. I came up to say, "Hey guys, how's it going? Oh, good. Do you want the rest of our popcorn?" I said, "Okay." I took it downstairs. My business.
I know. And then for the rest of the practices, when we had a little more and we tried to give it to you, you were like, "No, I'm good." And we're like, "It's Franky."
Save it for the show. Save it for the show, guys. So sorry for cutting you out there, Annie. I was just really curious. That just popped into
No.
my head.
That was a good question. That was a very good question. We diversified it by having 3 different brands throughout the 10 bags. I think one was a winner. I think. And I think it was the popcorn I bought for show night. And yeah, Naomi agreed. That was the one.
It was really
That
good.
was
That
the
was
one.
the best
We did.
one.
It was
We
pretty
did
good.
testing. I think that was the most expensive one.
Exceeded our budget on popcorn. Like, fuck.
This was good popcorn.
It was good popcorn.
Gotta
I
say
can't
that.
Wrong. I can't wrong.
But working with the small knit cast really does make a difference. Like, it's fun to have a big group of us and just produce something big and extravagant and tell this big story. But having something so close knit, like tight knit, it's fun to be able to bond with everybody working on the show just immediately. I didn't mean to snap. That was that was man. And for the show itself, I'm really glad that we were able to touch base on, like what Naomi said, something so like human. It really was you're able to touch base with so many different stories in theater. And like I said, sometimes it can be extravagant, sometimes it can be this big story. But this one, even though it has big moments, like in your heart, big moments, it's something small, an everyday thing that you wouldn't expect yourself to know about or to hear about or to experience necessarily for yourself. And with this script, you're able to, and we say this often, but like absolutely get an entirely new perspective and experience from someone else's insights on that type of situation. And I found that to be very insightful. Very, very, very insightful. It was incredible to see how there could be lighthearted moments between these two people and how they could bond over the sadness in their heart. And also, in the span of the 30 minutes, they overcome obstacles for themselves. Like, Thomas's character was incredibly nervous and frightened, unprepared to confront his wife. And near the end of the show, he's like, "I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this for me. We're done," if he doesn't chicken out. Whereas Naomi's character is maybe I'll get a wig. Maybe I'll look like Dolly Parton and serve him breakfast as Dolly Parton.
Stuff my bra and
Gotta stuff my bra and wear cowboy boots. God, I'd rather drink aftershave. Like, there's so many emotional hurdles they jump in just those 2 minutes.
so good.
And it shows how vast the emotional capacity in one 30-minute show has control of. Sorry, I was trying to find where I was going for the end of that sentence.
No, you're just like me. I'm like, where's the
has,
thesaurus?
can do, has done, can do.
Has done, has yet to be.
Has yet to be.
Oh man.
I think Thomas and Naomi really, really surpassed all expectations with presenting the show and making it human and making it just like a sitcom, because you're watching this drama and them bonding over this drama, but also it's a small drama, a compacted drama that not many people get to sit on the sidelines and watch. And I found the script having those moments and that energy and that story to tell that you could just see any other day, but not as close to your heart. Something different. And I thought that would be a really good story to share.
Yes, definitely. And it went over very, very well. And just, hopefully that's something that nobody ever has to relate to on a personal level. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like,
Agree.
like anybody who watched the show and that has happened to you, I'm so sorry. That's terrible. You know what I mean? Like, but the way that you guys brought it to life, it felt very real. It was very heartfelt, and I think it was a good choice. It was a very, very good choice for a script with the actors we have. And and we got lots to be proud of. You guys have lots to be proud of, and I'm so thankful you guys are always around. Naomi is okay. I just, Annie said,
that was a call out.
Annie's like, I want Naomi. I'm like, do we have to get her again? Really?
Stop. You fought over me.
Oh my God. It was,
sorry.
You
Frankie was
fought
like,
over
hey,
me.
do you want to direct like a one act in between the shows? And I was like, yes, absolutely. He was like, okay, I'm thinking of Patti and maybe Michelle or Naomi. And I was like, no. Frankie, with all due respect, I will take Naomi, please and thank you.
Yes, fair enough. Fair enough. It was like a bidding war. I'm like, I will pay $10,000 for Naomi.
It literally lasted 2 days between me and Frankie's direct messages. we
Like,
went on for that for
what do
2
you want?
days.
You know what I mean? Like, it was, I said, I need, yeah, it was like, Annie's like, I want Thomas. I'm like, okay, I want Patti. And then it was like Michelle and Naomi. It was like, who do we want? Well, it was like, because we're like, they both could play either part, but we're like, what one do they fit better? And it worked out so well with whichever one. Like, it really could have worked out either way. I think
could have, absolutely, but
I think Thomas could have played Margie in Driver's Test too. I mean,
oh my God, that would have been funny. That would have been so funny.
Encore this weekend. Thomas, start learning those lines. Thomas just rolls his eyes. He's like, no, I'm not fucking doing that.
I'm done.
We're done. But guys, thank you guys so much for just being you guys, for working so hard to bring this show to life. Except Naomi. And I hope sorry, I'm picking on Naomi. I love you, Naomi. You guys,
too,
you guys are the best, and thank you so much. And please don't go anywhere because I still want you guys around. So
even Naomi.
Anyways,
let's end the podcast.
End the podcast now. So
She's done.
If you guys have any final words, feel free to say them before we sign off to our viewers.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Corcoran Entertainment Podcasts. Please continue listening as there's a new episode every Tuesday. At what time, Frankie?
7 a.m. normally.
Holy cow. Look at that. Drink your morning coffee.
Tea or whatever you
Orange
smoke,
juice. Franky.
sit
And
in the living room den, smoking a cigarette, turning on the
classy.
TV. You know,
Turn on Franky Corcoran. Beautiful.
No better way.
And-
Okay, we're going off on a tangent here, so I think we're gonna call it there for this segment. Thank you guys so much, guys. We're gonna take a short break, but we'll be back with the driver's test cast and crew. But until then, this is Franky, Annaka Fournier, Thomas Hare, and Naomi Wallace signing off. Thank you, guys. You're the best.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the podcast today. I am your host, as always, Franky Corcoran, and that was the cast of A Tale of Two Spectators. Big thanks to them for making our night a one-act complete, because if we did just one one-act play, it wouldn't be enough. So thank you guys for all your hard work on that, Thomas, Naomi, and Annie. And so now here we are for the second one. This one was a driver's test by Don Zolidis. If you're listening to this, Don, I don't know if he would find out about this or not, but shout out to you, Don. Thank you for writing a hilarious script that we were able to bring to life here. And so, of course, I'm joined right now by the two actors of that one, who I had the immense honor of directing. First off, we have Patti O'Shea, who played Margie, the batshit insane driving instructor. Patti, how are you?
Great, thanks. Thanks for having me.
And we also have Michelle Lilly, who played Gail, the nervous 16-year-old, but in real life, she's 26. Are you 26, Michelle?
25, but that's okay.
Okay, you're going to be 26, though, I think, right? Because you're a year older than me.
Yes, in September.
Okay, awesome. And just to point out, guys, this is Michelle's first ever podcast as well. Patti was on here before. So thank you both for joining me today on the snowy night. And so we just wrapped last night at the time of this recording. We just wrapped the show last night. Patti, I'll start with you. How does it feel now that, you know, the show has wrapped? It was a one-night thing. It wasn't like it was a big 1 week run or anything, but it was still a lot of work nonetheless. So how does it feel knowing that we're done with it?
Big relief. I was a little cocky thinking, oh, one act, only two people. This should be a breeze. Big mistake. A one act with only two people, it's a lot more work. So I definitely learned a big lesson there. But it was fun, but I am glad it's over for now.
You're like, never again. It was funny. I said I'd love to do this again. You're like, yeah, not right now. Like, I need to.
Not for a while.
Not for a while. We'll give it some time. Maybe we'll I don't know. We'll talk about that in the future. I was just like, that was just such a fun performance. I'd love to see it again. But anyways, that's a future project. I'll come back to this in like 2 years and be like, hey guys, remember that episode I said we should do it? Yeah, so let's make it happen. And so Michelle, this is also your second ever production as well too. So how does it feel looking back on it now? It's been actually about 23 hours at the time of this recording. 23 hours ago, you guys were actually, yeah, so 24 hours ago, actually, we were all backstage going over lines and stuff like that. So how does it feel now knowing that it's all wrapped up, especially since this is your second production? Of course, you were in Tick Tick Boom as part of the ensemble. This was like your first big speaking lead part. So how does it feel looking back on it now?
Oh, it feels amazing. I mean, definitely glad that it's over because, like Patti said, that was a lot harder than I had thought when it's just two people in a play. But it's amazing. The first play that I was in with the Tick Tick Boom, it was a very small role, but it was just enough to sort of get me in the door. And with that, you know, obviously I got casted for this. So that felt amazing having a bigger part for sure.
Yeah, nice. Well, I mean, especially, it's so funny because you said it was a lot more work than we had anticipated, and that's so funny because then Patty said that too. Where yeah,
Mhm.
two people,
Yep.
it's not that hard, and so even I was thinking that too. You like oh yeah, two people. I'm like it's actually super easy that way. Not just scheduling practices, but also practice wise because it's just two of yous, and it was way harder than we had anticipated. Well, Patty, especially for you, where it's uh uh luckily with like some other shows we've done, it's okay, it's my line and then five other people have a line and then it's you again. This one it's all you. So what
Yes.
was like especially the scenes for those of you guys who watched it, who are listening to this, where we had of course the back and forth, stay in your lane, blah 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 blah, where you're impersonating the kids. What was it like trying to it's so funny. I'm asking all these questions like I never heard the answer before, but I'm just gonna interviewer mode. I'm gonna pretend like I never heard anything before. But so how did it feel knowing that you were basically all the cues for this one? Essentially, that's probably the best way to put it. How did it feel that way?
Stressful. Um, I never thought I was a perfectionist, but people tell me I am. So I did feel a lot of pressure. I didn't want to let you down. I certainly don't want to let the audience down. And that was the thing where I was playing the driver and the two kids and just bang, bang, bang. Michelle had one line, then bang, bang, bang. It was all on me at that point. I had to know my lines because I was the only one saying them at that time. So that was a learning experience. I think too in the future, if I ever do anything like that again, I will break it down into first 5 pages, learn that, then the next 5 pages, because trying to learn it all at once, um, yeah, it was just a little tricky at times.
But definitely lots to learn for sure. Like it's a lot like once you look back on it, you're like, oh wow, I can use that for any other future projects I have. And something that you do that I actually started doing on myself, which is recording your lines. Feel free to tell people what that whole technique is, which I never heard of it before until we had done it for John Bosma's play about 5 years ago now. Feel free to explain what this fancy tape recording trick is to learn lines.
Well, I've done two different versions. One is basically just like singing a song that you hear on the radio. I tape myself saying my long monologue parts, and then I play it, and I just keep trying to say the lines with it, and eventually it sticks, just the same as a song does. And another thing I do is I record the other person's lines and then leave enough time silently to say my lines, try to learn them that way as well. It's it helps where I don't have anybody to do lines with on the off days. So it's just little things like that that kind of give you a bit of help.
It's so neat though too. Like I had never ever heard of it that way. Well, especially when we did John's play, where it was almost like one practice a week, and then okay, now you guys have to learn your lines by this date, and it was like, oh my god, like what do I do? And then you had mentioned that. I'm like, I'm gonna try that actually. That actually sounds like it might work, and it really helped a lot too. So that was something that uh um. I didn't know before, but I definitely still using it, especially for monologues too. It actually helps, like just like a song. You just
Oh, definitely.
record
Mhm.
yourself saying the monologue and then just listen to it over and over and over again. Michelle, did you have any particular ways to memorize lines like that, especially in a show where it's just you two? Like, did you do the same route with the tape, or did you kind of just read it over and over again? How did you go about it?
Well, I had done sort of the same thing. I had recorded Patty's lines, and then I had just left enough room for myself to say my lines. And then I had also on lines that I wasn't really getting, I would write them down on a piece of paper as if I was in school and I got in trouble for something. You know, you just keep rewriting it and rewriting it and rewriting it. And I had also had the idea to sort of record both of our lines, and then I was going to listen to it as I was sleeping. to really program it into my mind. I didn't really do that because it's pretty hard to fall asleep to a play.
That is true, actually. And then
It,
also, especially for this one too, because we of course had the little break for Christmas as well too. How did that affect your rehearsing uh, methods, especially where it's like, okay, practice, okay, a break right here, and then now back to it again. How is it for you, Michelle? Like just trying to get back to it after that little break from the holidays.
it was brutal. The holidays, they really put everything on hold. And I told myself, like after the holidays are over, I'm really going to crack down and learn this. But then the holidays were over and I was still kind of in holiday mode. And it felt like I had almost forgotten everything that I had already learned from our previous practices. So it felt kind of like we were starting all over again. But it really helped me get my focus together because at that point I was like, ooh, there's 2 weeks until we perform. I gotta crack down.
Always helps to have the deadlines though, where it's like, okay, like at least I have 2 weeks, I have 3 weeks. Oh no, shit, I like we open tomorrow, like So like and then also it's funny because it's like it's a one and done. Like we got one night and that's it. But very very good. The reception was very good, especially with the script, of course. Now I remember first seeing this at Drama Fest in 2016, and it really stuck out to me. It was Moncton High did it, and the way they did it, it was of course for Margie, it was a guy who was playing Margie, and he had the wig on and everything. And it actually says that in the script. It says that's one option to go about. But no, as soon as I read it, I'm like, I can't do it. I'm like, I just hear Patti in this one. I was like, I can't not cast. I'm like, I can't put somebody else in a wig. I can't put Reg in a wig and have him do it. You know what I mean? Well, the poor lad had a heart attack, so of course I couldn't do it then. But I was just like, I don't know. I was like, I was reading the lines. I was like, no, like this is Patti. I can't really do that. So Patti, how is it for you playing Margie? Like just probably one of the craziest characters I think you've ever played in any, in all the plays that you've done over the years. And even your sister said too, when I was talking to your sister after the show, she's like, yeah, it wasn't too far off of what Patty's like.
It's sad but true. Yeah, I can be pretty crazy. Most of the time, though, the general public doesn't see that side of me. The car dancing, that's me. I'm maybe not as extreme as Margie got, but yes, I definitely car dance. And I'm crazy. So a lot of that, I amped it up a little bit, but really, a lot of that is just my at-home personality.
Minus the going to a mental institution and stuff
Yeah,
like
well,
that.
yes,
Like,
I've never been in a mental institution. No,
as far as she's letting on, Patti very well could have, and she just hasn't told
I
anybody.
should have. There's a lot you don't know about me.
This podcast is just so revealing. We're learning so much about everybody too. And then Michelle's like,
Was
"Oh,
a
I
line,
was in one too."
that was a line from the play. That's where, just in case anybody thinks that.
Yes, it's yes. I was gonna say, my God, Patty's crazy. You're like, oh my God, she's actually crazy. And then but then also for you, Michelle, where you're playing someone who's 10 years younger than you. And I mean, like Margie doesn't really say there was an exact age for her. It was just crazy instructor, and then it was like 16-year-old Gail. So you have to step back 10 years. And so what was it like kind of getting into that mindset where you're like, okay, what was I like when I was 16 and getting my license? Like, how did you go about that?
When I was younger, I was pretty much the exact same as I am now. I consider myself still to be a child. So it wasn't really the age for me. It was more so Gail is a very shy girl, nervous about the driver's test. And on my driver's test, I was overly confident and I usually have a lot of energy. And so Gail is so far from my actual character of who I am. So it was pretty hard trying to learn how to calm it down. You don't have the spotlight, you know. And so that was a process trying to trying to master being nervous. Not so much 16 though.
Well, it's kind of funny though, because we had talked about that before, where uh Gail's nervous and stuff like that, and you're like, well, part of that was I was actually kind of nervous myself because this is my first big part. So I'm like, okay, so there is a little bit like, so the nervous side, you're like, I didn't really have to fake that. I was like, yeah, you were like, I was a little nervous, you know what I mean?
Yes, I was definitely nervous once I was up on that stage. And I didn't realize how nervous I was until like partway through the play, my arms went totally numb. It was like pins and needles. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to have a heart attack up here.
Oh my god. Well, luckily there were defibrillators at the Kin Center, so if anything happened, then
Yes.
I would have rushed it. But like, it's so crazy though, like just how people can see is up there giving like the best performances, and really with any actor, like I see, like anyone who does like Broadway and all this stuff like that, they go through the exact same things, and it shows just how much you care about it if you're nervous. I like really, I mean, Patti, like, where do you stand on that? Because I mean, you guys were both nervous going into it just because it was a 2-person thing and it was a lot. Uh, do you see it the same way I do, where if you're nervous, that's a good thing because it just means you care about it? Is that how you see it, or do you see it the other way, where no, if you're nervous, then well, you shouldn't be here?
No, I think so. Nervous, you don't, like I said earlier, you don't want to let you down. You don't want to let the audience down. They paid money to come and see, a good performance, not a half-assed performance. There's nothing worse than going to see something and it's like, oh my goodness, I wasted my money. So it's definitely the nerves of being at your best and giving the audience what they came to see. That's what it is. It's not, oh my goodness, what if I do a bad job? So what? Life goes on the next day. But yeah, that's when I get nervous, it's for the other people because I don't want to let anybody down. But
No, exactly, because like if I forget a line, oh, it's gonna mess them up, and then it's like
yeah,
dominoes, and that's just your mind just goes to all these places. You're like, what if I forget and they forget, and then I don't know, like I fall off the chair or something like that. Which, yeah, like I mean, you did have to fall. I mean, that was part of.
yes.
I will say though, there was a part last night when you fell. It sounded so serious the way you did it, because every time we practiced it, you're like, I'm not gonna fall during practice because it's just I'm not gonna bother hurt myself over and over and over again. So you would just go, oh, and just sit down. And then it was when you did it last night, it was just so, there was something about it. I was actually thinking like, I hope she's okay. Like, is she okay? Like, because it actually it sounded so much more concerning than it did at dress rehearsal. I think just because there was an audience too. Like, I think that also helps too. Like, Patti, you haven't done many of these like comedies and stuff like that. Hearing the audience reactions, does it always like fuel the fire for you, basically, where you're starting off kind of low because you're a little nervous, but then once they start laughing and laughing, that's just when it builds up and you're like, okay, I'm just gonna go for it.
It definitely helped for sure. And also, because they laughed, I would pause my next line. So that gave me a few seconds to think, what's my next line? What's my next line? But I tried to pause too so that everybody could hear the rest of it. Because I
Hmm.
find it very frustrating when the audience laughs and then the actors continue to talk and you can't hear what they're saying. So once the audience started to laugh, which was pretty early into it, um, I felt a big sense of relief. It's like, okay, this is good. We can get through this because when you're at practice and you do it over and over and over again, after a few weeks, you think, this isn't even funny anymore. Is anybody
Hmm.
going to laugh? So once the audience started to laugh, definitely there was a weight off my shoulders and I was able to get into it. And I probably amped it up a little bit more than I did in practice as well because you have a bigger auditorium. The people at the back have to hear you. So
Yep.
it was a lot of fun though. It was.
It really was. Well, and then also, Michelle, too, what was that like for you as well? Because in comedies, especially, you're so used to practicing over and over and over again without an audience. What was it like for you during the show where now you have an audience and you're like, I know where they're going to laugh, but I don't know where they're going to laugh. So what was it like meeting those expectations where all of a sudden they start laughing at something that you're like, oh my God, they're laughing at that? I didn't know that was funny. And then kind of like catch yourself again, what was it like going through that?
There was kind of two sides of it. The first one being like, it's great that they're laughing, and it does create a lot of uh, pauses throughout the play where we can sort of recollect ourselves. But then the other side is it was so difficult because when we practice, we have a certain pace that we go at, and we don't really sort of pause for those laughs. So Patty's character, she's definitely the funny one throughout the play, so she's definitely getting the laughs. And then it was my line immediately after. So when they would laugh at Patty's lines and they start laughing, I'm like, okay, guys, you can stop laughing now because I'm gonna forget where we are in the play if I don't say my line right now. So it's difficult in that sense, but it also kind of eased the nerves because they were enjoying it.
No, definitely, and they definitely work well, especially one like this where, as opposed to the Tale of Two Spectators, where it was funny, but it was also serious, and it also had like a message kind of thing. Whereas Driver's Test, I mean, if there is one message to take away from it, it's just don't be such a crazy driver. Like, I don't know, like if there's to me, it was
Don't
just
speed.
yes, no speeding. That's what it was. I didn't even think about that really. I was just like, there's no message to it. It's just fun. Like I was just like, that's why I want to do it. I don't want to, like we have the first play where it's all serious. I'm like, I just want people to laugh their asses off, and I want to laugh my ass off. And I think it worked. I think it was just the perfect script for you to, especially, well, of course, because once I read the script and just reading Margie's lines, I was like, that's Patti for sure. And then um I was just thinking about you, Michelle, too, because I'm like, this would be a perfect new opportunity for you to kind of because obviously we started you with the ensemble and Tick Tick Boom with it was what like three like a bunch of lines like just health, fitness, dawn, something like that, like whatever it was. And as
Yes.
opposed to now you've upgraded in your acting pursuits. So it was really great. You guys really just it was just it was perfectly cast, really, in my opinion. Annie said that too after she watched a little bit. She's like, I don't think there was anybody else who could have done that. And so I was just
Well,
blown away. And I'm not just saying that because you guys are in front of me. Yeah, I'm gonna stop the podcast to go. I'm just kidding, guys. I made a mistake. Before we wrap up this segment, do you guys have any final thoughts about the play experience, the audience reactions and stuff like that, all the good reviews we're still getting on our Facebook and stuff like that? Patti, we'll start with you.
It was very humbling how many compliments I got. Like sometimes you think, oh, it's nice when somebody tells you we're good, but there were people saying a lot of things, and a couple of people sent me a message later on, and it was kind of a real wow moment because I do it because I enjoy it. I don't really think I'm, going to be on Broadway or anything like that. But when you get some really sincere compliments, it makes you feel good, and it's encouraging for the next performance.
Absolutely. That's a great way to put it. Michelle, how about you?
For me, yeah, it was really encouraging as well. With my first play with Tick Tick Boom, I only had a few words in that. And after that one was over, I'd realized that not one person that I knew came to the play. So this one where I had more lines, it was nice to see I had like my friends and family in the audience supporting me, and even people that I don't know that I talked to after the show, and they were complimenting both myself and Patti with how well that play went. It felt amazing, and definitely makes me excited to do more plays in the future.
Awesome. And I mean, like, you're already well on your way. Like this was a great start for you. and we're gonna see you in more. Absolutely, I'm super excited, and Patti, of course, as well
Yay.
too. Yeah, I'm just like, oh yeah, and Patti too. The way we still got a Playhouse Choral that we're gonna do March 1st and 2nd, guys. That's another plug.
7 weeks away.
7 weeks. Mark your calendars, folks. So thank you guys both for taking time. At the time of this recording, it's during a horrible storm, so it was the perfect time to do this. So thank you guys for taking time out of your busy schedule. I don't know what were you doing during the storm, baking or just watching Netflix? What's on the agenda for you guys?
Knitting.
That's
I'm
good.
in
Netflix for me.
Netflix and podcasting. I love it.
Yes.
So, guys, that's gonna do it for the show today. I want to thank my guests. Of course, the cast of A Tale of Two Spectators, Annaka Fournier, the director, and then Thomas Hare and Naomi Wallace, and then of course, Driver's Test, Michelle Lilly, and Patti O'Shea. And thank you to everybody who came out and supported us in what was a very successful show. And we look forward to doing lots more. We'll be back to our regular podcast next week. It's Emmys week. We're going to talk about the Emmys next week. So, yeah, that's a big one. Stay tuned for that. And yeah, we'll call it there, guys. So until next time, this is Franky, Michelle, and Patti signing off. Thank you, guys.
Good night.
Thank you.